All right. G'day, everyone. Welcome to the Spud Fit podcast. We're back. It's been a while. I didn't plan it this way, but, life gets in the way, and we all know how it is. But anyway, we're having another crack at it. We're back. The Spud Fit podcast is back in 2018. And I'm going to try and do it more regularly again. I would love to promise, but I've learned that maybe I shouldn't make promises with these sorts of things. Anyway, today's guests, I've said many times before, but one of the great things about this whole experience for me, the way I changed my life and changed my health through my year of eating only potatoes, was some of the new friends that I've made. I've made a lot of new friends along the way, and today's guests are two of them. Today's guests are a husband and wife team. They're powerhouses of nutrition knowledge and in Australia, and they're doing a great job of spreading the word. They've gone viral on a couple of different videos through plant-based news lately, and they're passionate and educated and strong voices for change and for health, and it's a pleasure to call them friends. We have today Dr. Heleen Roex. You can find these guys on their website, by the way, called wholeplantshealth.com.au. I'll link that in the show notes. So Heleen is, they both migrated from the Netherlands to Australia in the year 2000. Heleen had a medical training in pediatrics in Amsterdam, and in 2010 became interested in studying and learning more about nutrition and how a healthy plant-based diet can be preventative for many chronic diseases, but also curative in many diseases too. And she's dedicated her life to that now, and she's done a certificate in plant-based nutrition through the T. Colin Campbell Centre for Nutrition Studies at Cornell University. And she's also the first certified instructor through the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine's Food for Life program. Again, you can find out more about what she does with that through her website. There's only one qualified person in Australia. I don't know, maybe there's more now, but this was recorded a few months ago, so there might be more now, but she's definitely the first. And our other guest is Heleen's husband, Dr. Alphonse Roex. He's also a doctor. He's an obstetrician and a gynecologist. And they both focus on presenting health and nutrition backed by sound research. They've done lots of talks around Australia and internationally. They're fountains of knowledge. They are both absolute pictures of health and fitness themselves. So it's always nice to take advice from people who are experiencing the results that you want to get, and that's no doubt these two are. If I can be as fit and healthy as these two when I reach their age, then I'll be very, very happy with that. All right, but before we get to the show, I just would like to mention that there are still some places available for the Spud Fit retreat, which is happening in a few weeks' time. Go to the website www.spudfit.com and look up the Spud Fit retreat and see if that's something you might be interested in. It's happening in Melbourne, and it's just going to be a week-long Spud Fit challenge guided by me. We'll be all living together. I'll be living in the house too, and we'll be doing all sorts of awesome stuff. I won't bore you with the details now. Just go to the website if you'd like to learn more. And also, we're in the midst of Canuary, and you might have missed the start, but that's okay. You can join anytime. The Spud Fit challenge is an ongoing thing. So again, go to the website www.spudfit.com and click on the links to take the challenge if you want to know more, if you want to find out more information about that. All right, back to the episode. Let's hear from Dr. Heleen Roex and Dr. Alphonse Roex. And it was a good conversation. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Have a listen and spud up. All right, we're on. Here we are with Dr. Why don't you introduce yourselves? Actually, I was about to do it myself, but maybe you guys can do it for yourselves. So, who have we got on the podcast today?
Thank you, Andrew, for having us. And my name is Heleen Roex. I'm originally a pediatrician and from the Netherlands, trained in the Netherlands, but never got registered here, so I'm not practicing.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Is that a issue with regulations and things like?
When it's difficult to get registered.
Yeah.
But when we came over here in 2000, I was already not working anymore in the Netherlands because of the family.
Yeah.
So I looked more or less after 3 children.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was not really necessary to get registered here. And but that's my background. As a pediatrician, and that's in short my background. Maybe Alphonse wants to tell a little bit about himself.
All right, and I'll just quickly explain in between that I've got 2 microphones here, and so I'm on one, and Heleen and Alphonse are sharing the other one. So yeah, we might have a little bit of issues with sound, but we do what we can. Keep going.
Well, my name is Alphonse Roex. I'm a physician gynecologist. I work at the Lyle McEwen Hospital in Adelaide, South Australia, and I also work as senior lecturer for the University of Adelaide. So where I teach mainly year 5 and 6 medical students how to become confident, competent, and very caring doctors.
All right, nice. So how did this come about then? How did both of you get into being doctors?
Well, for me, it was a choice. I was always interested in psychology, in human behavior, and I still find it intriguing. And biology was for me the topic I enjoyed. And medicine was the choice for me to become a doctor. And then obstetrics and gynecology is the combination of surgery and the surgeon and the physician. So thinking and combining with using your hands. So great job.
All right, that's interesting what you said about psychology, because my sub-major in uni was psychology, and I think being healthy and eating well is at least as much about psychology as it is about your food choices, because if you want to make consistent good choices in food or any other part of life, then you need to be a master of your own psychology to a degree. So
yeah, I agree. I think as well what you eat it's very much culture, but also I think as a young child, what your mom gave you, that's what you like, that's what you prefer in general, and it's very hard to get rid of those habits as well. So it's very much a psychological, mental challenge as well, if you want to change at least.
Yeah, definitely.
And how did I get into medicine? I never thought to become a doctor. I always wanted to be a teacher. As a child, I really looked up to my teachers at primary school. But progressing through high school and everything, I ended up first doing like a secretary course, a quite upmarket one. But doing that one, I thought, this is nothing for me. And by accident, I came into contact with a 3rd-year medical student, and he talked about what he was learning and doing. And then I thought, wow, that's so interesting. And that's how my path in medicine started. And pediatrics was, I think, I from being a child myself, I already was always very fond of little children. So that appealed to me straight away. And in the end, I ended up doing neonatology, which is the intensive care for newborn babies, especially premature and the sick newborns. So that's
okay. That's quite intense kind of work, I imagine.
Very, very intense, and you deal not only with a little child, but with the parents and sometimes the little siblings of the child. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that's not an area that at least I typically associate with nutrition, and I don't imagine there's a big focus on diet for helping a newborn or a pre-date baby sort of, helping things work better in that area. So that makes me curious about how then you came to this idea of whole food, plant-based nutrition for good health, since it doesn't seem to be so relative in the job that you were doing.
No, not related at all, because the premature babies, they first need, because it's an intensive care, you need to stabilize them. So they are on drips, sometimes ventilation and all kind of equipment. So not a lot of nutrition going in there. And when they are better, you try to get them on breast milk, of course.
Yeah.
Nutrition is a very, in relative to my pediatrician work, young evolvement. So about 7 years ago, I came across the fact just online, scrolling around, and that Bill Clinton changed his diet. And looking at it, I saw an interview done by a CNN anchor with Dean Ornish and Caldwell Esselstyn at the same time. And that blew me away as a doctor. Never knew that information. So
what sort of information were they talking about?
About heart disease and how you can stop and reverse that with a plant-based diet. Well,
right.
that was news, because modern medicine cannot stop or reverse heart disease. It's a chronic disease. Per definition, that goes worse step by step. It's getting worse. It's never getting better.
Yeah, it's only about managing the symptoms, really, isn't it? In modern medicine.
And that's what it's called in medicine, managing chronic diseases. So we're not doing anything to cure it potentially. We're just managing it.
Right. I actually don't think I've heard that before, about it just being all about management rather than about trying to fix anything.
Yeah, because it's unfixable.
Yeah,
that's what we know about chronic diseases,
Yeah.
It's and that's what doctors tell you. When you've got a chronic disease, you're on medication for the rest of your life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's mind-blowing to hear a couple of doctors talking about getting off these medications that you previously thought was not possible to do.
Yeah. For me, it was such mind-blowing information. From that moment onwards, I started researching everything I could. And I was so enthusiastic about it. So after maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks, I started constructing an email for family and friends and said, listen, you need to know this. And I thought everyone would be jumping up from joy like I was.
Yeah,
but
of course you did.
but not really. Yeah. That's a complete different story.
Yeah, I remember having similar feelings where, this information I'm finding out's amazing. I have to tell everybody because everyone's going to be equally excited as I am and they're all going to change. You learn very quickly that that's not the case.
That's not the case. But no. But very happy I came across that information.
Yeah, and that video you talked about, were you watching it together?
No, I was watching it on my own, and then Alphonse, you can maybe tell what happened next.
Maybe you were the first recipient of Heleen's email.
No, we still communicate face to face every now and then. We have been married for only 37 years. So
okay.
It was before the time of e-communication. No, when I came home and Helene shared the information with me, it was clear. Like as a doctor, I see on a daily basis the misery of chronic illnesses. I see patients who pop 12 different pills, who are overweight, who have high blood pressure, who have diabetes, even in pregnancy. So as a doctor, I know how precious it is that you're healthy. So when Helene shared that information with me, I studied those articles myself, and it was very convincing, very compelling. And I was flabbergasted. I felt stupid that I didn't know that, but also I thought, well, did medical school or my colleagues not share it with me? So from then on, we became by being convinced by the evidence, we became whole food plant-based, and we never looked back. And we feel now this is now our obligation as doctors to share. Now we have the privilege to know. We have the duty to share that with as many people around Australia and the Netherlands as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree. That feels like it's my job as well now that I've had the big changes that I've had. That it's my duty to try to share the message wide, and part of that is talking to people like you as well.
Yeah.
So, did you change your diet immediately, or how did that go for you?
Almost immediately, I would say. There were a few odd things that you hang on to. One of the difficult things was changing the type of milk in the coffee.
Okay.
And maybe should not even be drinking coffee, but yeah.
Being Dutch, I was assuming you were going to say stroopwafels or
stroopwafels, yeah,
or
yeah.
Pannenkoek.
yeah. The pannenkoek, the pancake, you can do that quite easily, but. Yeah, no, it was for instance, I found it really hard to have other milk in the coffee, and I have only one coffee a day, but I enjoy that one. So I can remember that I was having everything whole food plant-based, but I bought that little carton of normal, milk. And then at a certain point in time, I thought, this is ridiculous, and just started using soy milk.
And you get used to it, right?
And it's just 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, okay.
And it's gone. And if they, by accident now, give me a coffee with normal milk, I don't want it, I don't like it anymore.
Yeah, my wife's experience very similar. I've never drunk hot drinks, coffee or tea, so I don't know what that change is like. But my wife was the same. It was, just a couple of weeks, and she was used to soy milk, and now cow's milk is disgusting to her. Yeah.
Maybe as Dutchies, Heleen really, she was close to addicted to eating cheese. If we had a chunk of cheese, she would just, it would disappear quicker than the mice could get to it. And it's interesting, now we know that cheese is not promoting your health. To the contrary, when you look at cheese, it's like, it's high in fat, even if they advertise as low-fat cheese. So we know now it has a lot of stuff which is not healthy. So after 6 weeks of not eating cheese anymore, you reset your taste bud or your palate setting, and all of a sudden you get used to different foods. And that's an important message for the listeners as well. You think, I love my my spaghetti or my meatballs. You can just by not eating them for a few weeks, maybe 6 weeks in a row, you get a different appreciation for other foods. Because initially you might think, what do plant-based people eat? It must be boring, it must be bland. It's not the case. That's one of the prejudice ideas we had before we came whole food plant-based.
Yeah, I had the same idea, and I can relate to the cheese thing. I used to, one of my favourite things before I made any changes was a toasted cheese sandwich. You couldn't beat that in my eyes. And yeah, I've got no interest in it now. Now that I've broken the ties, I don't care for.
No.
It doesn't bother me in the slightest that I'm not having a toasted cheese sandwich. That's fine.
Yeah, and that's really so almost unbelievable. Before you were really, really loving it, and I now tell people if there is a table full of different cheeses in front of me, it wouldn't appeal to me.
Yeah,
I wouldn't feel drawn into that.
Yeah,
not at all.
It's not even food now.
No, no.
So, did you notice any changes in your own health when you first made your dietary changes? Did things change for you personally?
Yeah, that's one of the stories that we don't carry with us, and a lot of people that are now whole food plant-based have sometimes remarkable stories how their lives changed, weight-wise and health-wise, and of course you, Andrew, can relate to that. But so many other people, with heart disease or an autoimmune disease, but both of us, we were not overweight. I think we might have lost, both of us, like 2 kilos or so, changing the diet. But, and we didn't, as far as we knew, you don't know what was simmering in the background, but as far as we knew, we didn't have any chronic disease. We were not on medications, nothing. And, when we started changing, we were in our late 50s. So fairly healthy. So we don't have that story. Not even, I feel so much more fit. Yeah, I to a degree can say that I felt that. More energy, that's what you hear.
Yeah.
But, you can't quantify that. That's like subjective information.
Yeah, well, if you're already lean and you're already reasonably fit, then there's what else is going to improve? What would be really interesting would be to know about how the health of your arteries changed for me. But obviously, there's no way to know now. But maybe if someone in your position could be monitored through the change and see, what happens on the inside, that would be really interesting. And I'm curious about that for you guys as well. But
so no symptoms. We were healthy, and that did count our blessings. But I know my cholesterol. I have over the years had a routine checkup with my GP, and I know my cholesterol was in the normal range, but now it has sunk to a level where I feel I made myself heart attack proof, and that's also I'm very happy with the fact my arteries. Recently, I had a special measurement of the flexibility of my arteries, and the young researcher who did check my blood pressure and that flexibility test, she was surprised that, wow, that looks great. And when I told her I'm 63, she couldn't believe it. So I don't know precisely what she measured, but my endothelium function, so the inner lining of my arteries, are doing well. But your question, did we have any symptoms? We did not respond to a disease or a threat about our health. We just did it because of the evidence before our eyes. That's why we made a change. And to go into that trap of chronic diseases. We want to stay healthy as long as possible. We want to stay away from the doctors and the hospitals, because hospitals and doctors, we are disease managers. We are, in principle, hospitals are dangerous places. Did you know, Andrew, if you look at the top 10 causes of death in the United States, the medical treatment itself is on the 5th spot. So you might be in a hospital, you get a drug which you're allergic to, you get a coronary bypass operation, complication, you die, etc. So healthcare, so it should be disease care in my view, is the number 5 cause of death in the United States. Food for thought.
That is incredible. So people are dying because of the treatment that they've... Wow. I was at a John McDougall talk recently, and he talked about, I can't remember exactly, but it was something to do with like colonoscopies for cancer or something, that people are more likely to die from complications to the colonoscopy than they are to live longer because they find a cancer. That blew my mind, and now you're blowing my mind again. So
that's true. That's absolutely true. And now I think was it Canada or so that now is saying that it's not a screening tool anymore, colonoscopy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think some countries are now walking away from it because it does not really add enough information. So if you do stool tests on whether there is some blood in the stools, so for people that are not at risk, I'm talking.
Yeah.
So really screening for all the apparently healthy people, it's not a good thing to do that anymore. Especially because it doesn't give enough people that you pick up, and the risk, the combination. Right.
So sooner or later, I imagine you start bringing your ideas of whole food, plant-based eating into your work. So how does that process go for you guys?
Well, I'm still practicing as a obstetrician gynecologist, and one of the things I did is pregnant women in the community we serve, it's an underprivileged community, quite often are diagnosed with an iron deficiency anemia. That means the iron levels in blood are low and the red blood cell count is low. And typically what we do, iron deficiency anemia, we give the woman advice to take a pill, an iron supplement. And typically iron supplements have some side effects. One of them is constipation, and sometimes it makes your stomach upset. Well, what do we do if you have constipation? Well, we have an aperient, as we call it. So it facilitates number 2s going to the toilet. So for iron deficiency anemia, which is a common condition,
Yeah, that's pretty common especially in pregnant mothers, isn't it?
Yeah. So we have 2 pills, and what I did, Heleen produced a beautiful leaflet, and she explained in that leaflet, evidence-based, by eating more leafy green vegetables and beans and whole grains, that you can actually offer your gut more natural iron. And if you combine that with food which is rich in vitamin C, so fruit, then you absorb more of the natural iron. You should not combine your leafy greens, etc., with drinking tea or coffee at the same time, because that hinders the absorption. So I made that, Heleen made that leaflet, and I'm using that. I'm printing that off many, many times. Every time when I do an antenatal clinic, I share it with the women, but also I share it with some of my colleagues, the students and the midwives. And you see, there's a different approach. And of course, I notice that leaflet, you could see people were laughing about it because they thought that is something weird.
Yeah, you're supposed to eat steak if you want iron.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and this is what we still teach at medical schools. Red meat is your best friend. By the way, I like to make 2 comments here. The heme iron, so that's the iron which is bound to red blood cells of animals, of flesh. That absorption, that's well absorbed, that absorption is not regulated, and it sounds a bonus, but it is also a negative aspect, because heme iron, when you absorb that into your body, is a very strong oxidant, and oxidation means aging, more risk for chronic diseases, etc. And we know that heme plays a role in, for instance, could contribute to Alzheimer's disease. So heme iron, you should not have a surplus in heme in your body. Meat, there's another thing. We know now that processed meat causes cancer in human beings. Published in October 2016? No, 2015. Heme iron, so processed meat causes cancer in human beings. And the risk that you get, for instance, bowel cancer, colorectal cancer, is comparable with passive smoking. The passive smoking is banned in our community. You would not put your child in a room where people have been smoking before, yet the whole society consumes processed meat. So where are we? Where are the health authorities to share that with us? Meat, meat is most likely causing cancer in human beings. So meat is not promoting health. Red meat is not required to deal with your iron deficiency anemia. It's just advertising, and in a very sleek way, it's planted in our brains as young children. We believe, in Australia in particular, that you need meat to be strong, you need meat for your proteins, you need meat for your iron. And when Heleen and I look at the evidence is the opposite. But how many blokes believe that? They think that you need to eat meat to be strong and muscular. And if you go to the gym and you want to add muscle, that you need to eat protein shakes, etc. It's all good for the hip pockets of the people who sell that to you, but it's not necessary.
All right. Yeah. Well, yeah. For me, it's really interesting that you're working a lot with pregnant women and advising on diet for during pregnancy, because when my wife was pregnant with our little boy that we have now, she was vegan and mostly whole food plant-based. We were trying to be whole food plant-based, and she was much better at it than me, obviously. And I got even worse after that, but that's another story. But when we went for checkups with specialists and doctors and things, and as soon as they found out that Mandy was eating vegan, we better write a note down on Mandy's little chart, and we better just ask for a few more tests than we normally would. And, I think maybe you should add in some meat just once a week. Have some meat once a week just to make sure. Anyway, so now now I'm talking to a specialist in this area who would say, "No, you're on the right track," and that would have been nice at the time. So, do you have any? Were there any moments in your professional lives where something happened, or you had a patient where something good happened? You went, "Yes, I'm on the right track now. I know that this is working in this instance, and it feels good that I've been able to make a difference with this advice."
Alphonse? Yeah. Have you had ever a patient that changed?
Yeah, I know there are a few examples of patients where
Or
I
maybe
had,
not someone that totally changed their diet to
No,
whole food
but-
plant-based, but maybe someone that did start eating leafy greens and their iron level got better or something.
Yeah,
along-
absolutely.
yeah?
I know from a patient who had bowel resection in the past because of cancer, and she had also radiotherapy. She had her whole life iron deficiency, and sometimes she needed, because her bowel could not absorb it anymore, and also she needed every now and then blood transfusions. And she's a nurse, by the way. And when she changed her diet to whole food plant-based, for the first time ever in her life, she came back and told me, well, my red blood cell count, so my hemoglobin is normal, and my iron are back to normal. And her GP said, what's happening? So it was thanks to the change in diet
Wow.
that she, for the first time in her life, she was chronically anemic, struggling. And now with the whole food plant-based diet, she is absolutely normal. And that's now a few years ago. So a small example of a remarkable change.
Yeah, that is amazing. Yeah, and I bet her doctor was happy about that too.
Yeah, he was happy, but also very surprised. He didn't understand.
Oh, okay. Well, now we need to help him understand.
Yeah, and although for the past so many years I don't deal with patients, in the meantime I did some schooling, extra schooling in nutrition. And for instance, the nutrition, what is it called? Yeah, at Cornell, a plant-based nutrition course at
interesting, yeah.
Cornell University. So that's a course you do over the internet.
I'd like to have a go at that myself sometime.
It's
yeah.
a really nice background information, and you get a beautiful whole picture of thing. Yeah, from T. Colin Campbell, who wrote the China study, started this, and after that I went physically to Washington D.C. to PCRM, which is the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine,
With Neil Barnard?
with Neil
Yep.
Barnard. He founded that in 1985, and they train people to become a Food for Life instructor, as they call it. So you have to go there, you have to apply, and when you get in, you have to go there and being trained as such. And I'm at the moment the only one in Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
I knew you were doing that, but I didn't realize you were the only one. That's
yeah,
cool,
and based in Adelaide. So a few times a year, I conduct 5-week courses. So people come once a week for 2 hours. And during that period, I do some education about plant-based nutrition. There's also every visit when they come a video with Neil Barnard talking to them and explaining things as well. And then there is a cooking demonstration every night where I demonstrate 3 different recipes each night. So, and then people are blown away by, first of all, that you can prepare food without oil, because whole food plant-based also means no added oil. And they are also blown away how simple the recipes are and how well they taste. So yeah, the cooking demonstration comes along also with tastings.
Oh, great. I wish it was in Melbourne. I'd come along myself.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, that will happen. Yeah.
What sort of foods do you cook then? Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, one of the foods is what a lot of people have for breakfast, an oatmeal dish with a little bit of raisins or sultanas, and maybe added in a little bit of sweetness like maple syrup, but if you want to, but you don't have to, and some cinnamon. So simple. Or apple went into it as well. So, but it is very simple, and people can then decide, I want to keep it that simple, or I can add in a few other items to make it maybe a little bit more exciting. There is a dish, really beautiful quinoa chickpea salad with a miso dressing, an orange miso dressing where you use orange juice and miso and ginger and a little bit of garlic. No oil required. And every time when they have, that's in the second on the second night that I demonstrated one, they come back the next week, and so many people say, I made that one. I made that salad.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Good.
I loved it so much. There is a very simple soup with sweet potatoes and chickpeas. We've got, the potatoes are there as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Yeah. So, but mushrooms and red capsicum dish with a little bit of soy sauce. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. So you keep it pretty simple then.
It's very, very simple,
Yeah.
but very tasty.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. There's no excuse, people.
No, but but I remember how in the beginning you're feeling a little bit, as in, what do I do? What do I prepare? So and then people think that it has to be difficult and that you need many ingredients, and it's just keep it simple, especially in the beginning. Just keep it simple and eat the whole foods.
Yeah, this is a big thing for me. That I really think that these all these TV cooking shows at the moment, like the Master Chef and My Kitchen Rules and all that, I really think they've got a lot to answer for in today's society, because people seem to have this idea that every meal you eat has to be this amazing gourmet experience, and if you don't spend an hour and a half in the kitchen preparing it, then you may as well just not do it. It's sort of, there's this weird idea, but it's I love it that people like you are trying to help people still get amazing flavour, but just cut down the worry about what you're doing, and let's just keep it simple and just keep it easy. And
absolutely. And I think we have to go back to the basis, and basics about why are we eating. We are eating to stay alive, first of all, but also to stay healthy. And that doesn't come from manipulating food until the point that you don't recognize it as food anymore. That's what I find. When I look at these shows, and I think, I don't see real food anymore. And that's why it's really also enjoyable just to stay with the whole foods. And that you see, now I'm eating potatoes, and here I'm eating beans, and there I'm eating some brown rice, and now I'm having, eggplant. And it's really, I find that enticing to see the real food on my plate.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have believed that once upon a time, but once you give your taste buds a little bit of time, like Alphonse was saying before, about 6 weeks to allow everything to adjust, then things like that become an enjoyable experience. And like these days, I often just eat a carrot or eat some cherry tomatoes or eat some potatoes, obviously, or just a single ingredient is fine by me now. I've got no interest in spending an hour in the kitchen making something incredible. In fact, that these days seems like a waste of time to me, because I've got so many more interesting things I could be doing rather than spending so much time in the kitchen. Yeah. But and I'm healthier for it too. So.
Yeah, and you hear so many people say, but food should still taste good. Well, that is what it does. The real food tastes so good that a lot of people might not understand this, but we now enjoy a boiled potato as a snack.
Yeah, totally.
And it's such a beautiful snack because it's filling, and it's not in your body, and then after half an hour you feel already you need anything more. You need more food. No, it's very good satiety, and
Yeah, so, absolutely.
But I would never have thought that I would do that. Many years ago.
Me neither.
About the boiled potatoes, I think we have an interesting experience, because when you travel, especially when you hop on a plane, well, you can order vegan food, but it's quite often heavily processed. So good friends of ours, they had a strategy. They prepared a number of boiled potatoes, and my family and I, we went to Japan last year for a skiing holiday, and Heleen boiled how many?
2 kilos.
2 kilos of potatoes, and you could believe it or not, we got stranded at the airport in Tokyo because the connecting flight was cancelled because of bad weather. And whilst all the other passengers were grumpy and becoming increasingly hyperglycemic, and we were just chewing away those beautiful potatoes, and we had a ball.
Perfect. I had a similar experience, not with a stopover, but I flew to LA and I took a big box of boiled potatoes with me, and when the hostesses came around with meals, because this was last year while I was eating only potatoes, so I didn't expect the airline to have only potatoes for me. So
Yeah.
the hostesses would come around with their meals, and I just had my big box of potatoes on my tray, and no thanks, I've got this. And then all of the hostesses would have to come and have a look. Obviously, the one that came past went and told someone, and she just came and stuck her head around the side of the seat and saw what I was doing and had a little laugh and ran off. And then another one came and looked at they all have to see this crazy guy that's eating only potatoes.
Yeah. No, that's funny. Yeah.
So I can't have a couple of doctors on the Spud Fit podcast without asking the questions that everyone probably wants to know about, the questions that you've heard a million times before, but we're going to go through them again anyway. So first one, protein. Where do you get your protein?
Yay! There is it again. Yeah, no, that is such a misconception. And you are being such a good example that if you eat for a year potatoes only, that you get all the protein you need. And first of all, the misconception that we need so much protein, that's so overstated. We need only 0.8 grams per ideal body weight in protein. So for me, that's maybe 40, 50 grams of protein per day. On a whole food plant-based diet, I go over that. I already get too much, basically, you know. So you have to really put in an effort to not get enough protein. And that's only in the situation where there is starvation. So here in the modern world, we don't see deficiencies in protein only when people undereat, maybe anorexia, that kind of diseases. Otherwise, you won't see it, and so it's never ever a problem. But people don't realize that they now think in protein and carbohydrates and fats, and not in whole foods anymore. So if you look at fruit, a lot of fruits will still have some protein, not much, but it will be there. Leafy greens will have protein, and potatoes, and so you don't have to eat, I probably have to eat a lot of beans for the protein, because people know that beans will have protein. No, you don't, because if you eat of everything across the board of the plants, you will get all the protein and more than you need. And the healthy proteins, so plant proteins are very healthy for us, and animal proteins are detrimental for our health, basically.
Yeah, and it's even to the point where this protein idea is totally taken over, to the point where often people don't even call meat anymore. They just call it protein and forget that it's got other things in it that are not protein. Yeah. It's like you're not just eating a chunk of protein. There's fat and cholesterol and who knows what else in there from the hormones,
antibiotics, and many other problems with it. And even if animal protein would not be a problem, because it is a problem in itself for our health, then you always have to look at the package you are eating. And that protein comes in a package. And that the package you are already, mentioning, with the saturated fats and the cholesterol and antibiotics and the hormones, not even added hormones. That animal has its own hormones that will be in that meat. And there is a very, insulin, growth factor 1, it's called, like IGF-1, very cancer-promoting hormone. It's just there. So if you want that animal protein, because you want that protein and supposedly so good, well, think about it, because it comes in a package with a lot of negative products in there as well. If you then look at a plant package, it's almost all positive. So you have the plant protein that's healthy, and then it comes with vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. Phyto means plant, and so all sorts of nutrients that are never listed on a label. If you would list phytonutrients on a label, the label will drag on the floor because so many nutrients are in there that we don't even realize, And then the fiber, because animal products have zero fiber, and we now know how important the fiber is in our diet, and all the fiber comes from plants.
So you should reverse that question, the silly protein deficiency. Yeah, when you're stuck in the desert, and there's nobody around, you will have protein deficiency after a few days. But what about your fiber deficiency? And what about the deficiency in nutrients and micronutrients? But it's planted in our brain, and the human brain is reluctant to change habits, especially if it's about, food is one of the habits we don't want to change unless there's compelling evidence, and you really are prepared to make the change because the information is very clear. So if you think about August 2017, if you look at all the evidence, whole food plant-based nutrition is the healthiest food we have at the moment. We'll let you know if the evidence changes, but I don't think so at the moment.
Yeah, no worries. Well, that was a good answer.
A little bit of a long one.
Yeah, no, it's good. We need to get into detail because I think one of the things one of the reasons this message doesn't get out is because because people go, oh well, nobody's going to make that big a change to their diet. I've heard it many times that doctors and other professionals say, yeah, whole food plant-based diet's good, but it's too hard, so we're not going to bother telling people about it because it's too hard. So I think it's important. I'm the opposite. I think that we should be empowering people with information and allow them to be fully educated and then really make an educated decision based on what's best for their health rather than just what the TV tells them to do.
Yeah,
so.
No, that's so true. That's what we want to do. Alphonse and I together, we do quite a bit of presentations as well for the general public, but also for doctors. It's called grand rounds in hospitals, where they have every week like a scientific talk, and we have been in almost all academic hospitals in Adelaide. We have been talking there, and also in the Netherlands in one. Just to educate the medical world as well. It's so important that they
Absolutely.
know. Yeah. Because even though the doctor might not be plant-based himself, as long as the doctor knows that it's very healthy, then you don't have that situation what you see now so often, that the patient wants to go plant-based, went plant-based, goes to the doctor, tells him, her, and then gets the answer, that's very, very dangerous. You shouldn't be doing that. You need meat and you need dairy. Yeah. And then the patient is confused, of course.
Yeah, I've had that myself, but luckily I had taken it upon myself to be educated, and I was not confident in what the doctor said when he said I need to eat meat and dairy and all of that sort of stuff. So, but not everyone's in that position. So
no, and what I would like to add is that I don't blame doctors, because 7 years ago, we were the same. We didn't know. So they don't know. It's not in the education. It's not in their toolbox. So that's one of the things that we would like to do. Also educate the medical world. Yeah. And so I'm not blaming anyone.
No, I totally understand it. People can't change if they don't know what they're supposed to be doing and they don't have the information. So let's just get the information out and allow people to make up their minds, because at the moment people are not making up their own minds. They're just doing what they've always done or what they've been told, and they're not making decisions. They're just following what they've always done. But now you guys are allowing people to actually make a decision for the first time in their lives. So that's a big thing.
Also, I think an important point is, if you eat what you eat, you can eat very unhealthy food for many, many, many years. It has a leeway of maybe 30 years before you hit the wall. So when you're young and you feel healthy, you feel also bulletproof, invincible. So you are allowed to eat whatever you like, to drink whatever you like. But in the meantime, there is a chronic inflammation brewing inside of you, and it's a matter of time. So you could cut what you eat and drink every day it's a potentially a sneaky, slow killer. And that's why we want young people and healthy people to realize that. Because now, the vast majority of people make a change to their diet when they're diagnosed with, they wake up, hopefully, they're still alive after a big infarct, and the doctor tells them, you know, well, you need to change your lifestyle. So you start jogging, you stop smoking, the good ones, and you change your diet. Most important message for the community is prevent this from happening in the first place by having a healthy lifestyle, and of all the parameters of your lifestyle. So you're jogging, smoking is important, but nutrition is the number one issue, which has the biggest impact on that. So it's not only for the old and the frail and the ones who have diseases already. This message is very powerful for the ones who are still very healthy and fit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and on that note, Alphonse mentioned, you know, you might get heart disease in the end after so many years when you are 50 or 60 years old. And a lot of people might think, oh, well, because it's also really good, this diet in reversing chronic diseases, you know, I will do that when I get there. But especially with heart disease, if you look at it, 50% of all the patients that die of heart disease, they die with their first heart attack, which is then the first symptom. So your first symptom might be your last symptom. So only 50% of people have the chance to change and their diet and do something about their heart disease. So that is not really an option to say, you know, I will wait until, especially with heart disease.
They're not good odds. I don't want to take that chance.
No. So you have to realize that. But it's really hard for people in general to be motivated by fear that works only for a certain amount of time and then it weans off. But going on a whole food plant-based diet, there is that factor of feeling so much better and having so much more energy. And although that is subjective, this is a very good stimulant for people to stay on track and a really good motivator. So that's a very positive motivator.
All right. Well, that was taking. We've probably got to wrap it up now. We've been going for long enough, and you've got to meet your kids and have a good time.
Yeah.
But the last thing I wanted to ask is about, you know, for me, it's all about, you know, it's good to have all this information, but so many people, myself included, before I did my potato thing, find it really hard to stick with the change. So, do you have some advice or some helpful hints or something for people that want to make the change but have found it hard to stick with it? How can you help those people?
Very important is to have, I think, also access to maybe other people that are on the same page. So nowadays there are many Facebook groups that you can sign up to become a member. Especially here in Australia, we've got Whole Food Plant-Based Aussies as a Facebook group, and there is a lot of support, a lot of quality information. Another good thing might be if you don't feel like that or that's not enough, now and then do a 21-day kickstart program online, which is, for instance, available with PCRM. It's all for free. It's very motivating. They include celebrities that also put in their information and motivation for this. And you can do it as often as you like. So if you think, you know, I need some more inspiration, you can do that course. Yeah, it's pcrm.org.
Okay.
And then 21-day kickstart.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so reading, talking to other people, going to websites, watching documentaries. I find these things are all very motivating to keep doing what you are doing. But community, be part of a community that is doing it, like a Facebook group if you don't have a physical community. I would like to add to that as well, Andrew, that now we have in every major city in Australia a plant-powered group, and that is also for meetups And so you can talk to other people face to face.
And I had a great time at the Adelaide plant-powered meetup a couple of months ago.
Yeah,
so
you were our guest.
That was great.
Yeah, that was fantastic. So we have plant-powered Melbourne, plant-powered Sydney, plant-powered Adelaide. So the major cities have a group like that.
All right.
And so that would be also a really good thing to do for motivation.
Yeah, I agree. That, like I said, that was a good time. And I go along to the plant-powered Melbourne meetups. It's always really nice to share a meal with other people that are eating the same way, and you don't have to spend the whole meal justifying your food choices. You can just talk about interesting things to talk about instead.
No, and maintain your sense of humor, because of course people pay us out when we tell them that we are whole food, plant-based or vegan, and that's wonderful. And accept that we're still the exception, but it's changing. We have seen over the last 5 years the number of people who are now plant-based are increasing for very good reasons. So if people crack a joke about you, I love that, and I laugh, and I thank them sincerely, because laughter is a very good instrument, helps you to stay happy, and also your sanity probably.
Yeah, that is an important point, because I do hear from a lot of people that someone has said something negative about. With me, it's eating only potatoes or something, and they want an argument. They need an argument. They have to win this debate. And often I say, just have a laugh, just chill out. It's not. It doesn't have to be all that serious.
Absolutely.
So that's an important point. All right. Well, yeah, it's about time to call it quits for today. So, Heleen and Alphonse, thank you so much for being on the Spud Fit Challenge, and I love your work, and I hope it continues to get bigger and better for you.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Andrew.
you.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was a pleasure.
All right, and enjoy the rest of your little stay in Melbourne.
We will, definitely.
All right, spud up. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the Spudfit podcast. I hope you're happy that we're back and we're in action and things are happening in 2018. I'm happy about it, and I'm looking forward to having some more guests that are just as good and just as enjoyable to talk to as Heleen and Alphonse were. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did enjoy it, then the best thing you can do for me is to share it with your friends. Tell everyone you know about it, and so also subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Go to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and click subscribe. That's really helpful. And also, hack your friends' phones while they're not looking and subscribe them to the podcast too. What else? All right. So yeah, again, if you want to keep in touch with Dr. Heleen and Alphonse Roex, then you can go to their website. What was it again? wholeplantshealth.com.au. Sorry, I had a mental blank there for a second. wholeplantshealth.com.au. Go and check them out. And also make sure that you check out the show notes if you're interested in learning more about them. There's links to their website in the show notes, but also links to lots of the things that we talked about in the show. So head over to spudfit.com and check out the show notes for this episode. And again, before we go to spudfit.com if you're interested in the Spudfit retreat, the first ever Spudfit retreat's happening in a few weeks. It's going to be awesome. I won't bore you with the details right now, but go to the website if you're interested. I think it's going to be really, really cool. I'm very, very excited about it. And also, of course, there's the Spudfit membership. So if you want to do your own Spudfit challenge with some guidance and help from myself and many other like-minded people, then spudfit.com and go to the Take the Challenge links. All right. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone who listened. I appreciate everyone who gives me support and help. And thank you, and enjoy your week. And we'll be back. Spud up.